today, talked about a few days.
All right, folks, we are now taking you out live at Phoenix Sky Harbor here, where we are awaiting President Trump's arrival and Air Force One. We just have a couple of more moments with you on Fox 10 Extra. So what we do suggest, starting at noon, switch on over to Fox 10 Phoenix. You will get to see the landing take place live right there at Phoenix Sky Harbor. And if you're watching on coronavirusnow.com, you don't have to do anything. It's just going to stay right here for you as this shot. We are awaiting President Trump, his first trip outside of the East Coast in more than 2.5 months since this pandemic has happened. And there's our very own Linda Williams as they're getting ready for a live shot, getting ready for at the top of the Fox 10 broadcast at noon, happening in just 45 seconds. So we are awaiting President Trump to be landing in just moments. It's always something to see. Air Force One, especially when it's in your own backyard here of Phoenix, Arizona. So we will keep an eye on that shot for you. So head on over, if you're watching locally on Fox 10 Extra, right over to Fox 10 Phoenix. You're going to get to see the landing take place here in just moments. President Trump making another visit to the Valley here. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And if you're watching on coronavirusnow.com, we're going to be with you all the way until midnight Eastern. Thank you so much, everyone.
Just little physical questions like that. I answered. They took my temperature, gave me a little bracelet that said I was cleared, and then we all went through. But I covered the president when he came the last time on February 19th for the big rally at Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So comparing the two trips is, what a difference 76 days makes in just the protocol of a presidential visit to Phoenix, Arizona. It's really different. Oh, absolutely. I asked about that as well, and we speculated a lot. And what we came up with is that we may not be near the president, but we are going to be near the Secret Service, who are going to be near the president. So it's more about exposure to people who will be around him than media itself being around him. That's what we speculated. No one ever confirmed that, but that makes the most sense to me right now.
It does. So we were just looking at what they call the Beast, and did you see the plane?
The Beast.
Yeah, so the Beast is basically the limousine, and there are always two of them, and that's to deter anybody from picking out which one the president may be in. But all of his equipment, I always think it's so interesting, all the equipment you have to move around for even a short visit for the president here, Linda, and this being one of those pieces of equipment.
And an incredibly short visit. We were looking at the Beast. We were watching as a gentleman, I don't know if he's the driver, got out and actually polished it up and got it all ready before they pulled it out here to the tarmac. But you want to talk about a short trip. I mean, the last one back in February, there was a lot more to go through logistically just to make that happen. But you're looking at these two Beast limousines.
Look how big it is compared to the size of the guy getting in.
It's huge.
It's mad. I see why they call it the Beast.
They're huge. And watching him open the door, I mean, it was a struggle. That thing is armored and it is heavy. But you see where the Beast is parked. I'm going to have Joe Tillman pan over north to where the president will actually be going. You see that beige building with the red lettering? That says Honeywell on it, and that's where he's heading. So he actually doesn't have to leave airport property in order to get from his Air Force One over to Honeywell, where he will be touring the mask making. So they're not going to have to close down roads or have any of that kind of inconvenience for some of the people. Do you see Air Force One?
No, I think I see it.
I think Joe's got it.
Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and grab
you saw the Honeywell building.
Let's grab the plane then, if you see the plane. Oh, yeah. There's no mistaking that plane, because when the president lands, he's the only plane in the sky, Linda.
Exactly, and we were waiting to see, Governor Ducey was waiting inside the terminal, and I thought, you know what, as soon as he leaves the terminal, then I'm thinking that is when Air Force One is in sight. But yeah, here she comes on board, not just the president, but according to tweets I saw, there will be Senator Martha McSally will be there, as well as Representatives Gosar and Representative Debbie Lesko. So they're all coming in for this plant tour.
All Republicans.
And it will be interesting.
Who are also facing re-election coming up in November, something to keep in mind. You know, a lot of people are talking about the president coming in, that it is an honor for Arizona to get basically the first visit from the president, and that he's honoring a business making those N95 masks here in Phoenix. But some of them are pointing out that this also shows that Arizona is probably a little bit closer or even in Joe Biden's favor than the president wants to see it. So you could see this is also a campaign trip.
Exactly. Many have speculated that there is politics involved in this, not just for the president, but for our Republican representatives here as well. They, of course, see better numbers in terms of polling than we do. They do a deeper dive and I'm sure schedule his trips accordingly. But yeah, he's going to a mask plant. Lots of speculation on whether he will actually wear a mask. No one has actually seen the president wearing one of those protective face masks yet. He has said he would, and that would be a picture to see. It wouldn't surprise me, Troy, if that mask... Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm always a little bit in awe when I see this plane come in. It doesn't matter to me who's on it.
It is a beauty.
Yeah. With the blue picked out, I was just reading somewhere that the blue was actually picked out by Jackie Kennedy because it was JFK's favorite color.
Right, and that blue certainly has a storied history all its own, and I'm told that it sells for, in terms of that particular paint color, very expensive and sells for more than other shades of blue. So safe landing here for Air Force One, and just a little bit late. He was due at 11:40, but as I saw him on the White House lawn live this morning, he was answering reporters' questions. I was thinking to myself, wait, you're supposed to be in Arizona at 11:40. I don't think you're going to make it. And Governor Ducey, hi, Governor. I'm well, thank you. Governor Ducey just walking by, so
he's been a busy guy,
getting ready to actually. He has been a busy guy.
And you top it all off with greeting the president here. But you know, what an opportunity for the governor, actually. How many governors, I'm sure the ones, well, I haven't even really heard of many who have visited Washington. How many governors have seen the president face to face in the last month, right?
Oh, absolutely. Right. I mean, they'll do a lot of calls, Zoom calls, things like that, but very few will actually meet him. The governor is not wearing the mask. A person with him is, so I'm assuming that he went through the same medical check through the Secret Service that they put media members through, because Governor Ducey not wearing a mask doesn't seem to have one looped around his neck. So we are in very different times. As you do play-by-plays on these arrivals, the things you comment on usually changes throughout the years, but this is without a doubt, obviously, the strangest.
Yeah,
in terms of no mask.
I've never heard that come up before. Who's going to be wearing a mask when the president lands? Yeah, I've never heard that question
What
before.
kind of mask is it going to be? Let's take odds on whether it'll have a political message on it, you know, the president's mask.
Right.
But it's just, these are very different times. Everyone's adjusting the best they can and just trying to move forward. But what an honor for Honeywell and for the city of Phoenix to have pulled this feat off. And it is so amazing in terms of producing millions of those coveted N95 masks that it got the attention of the president and actually warranted a visit. It's a great story. It's certainly a feather in Phoenix and Honeywell's cap to have to get this done, to get this mask producing plant up and running in the amazing short amount of time that they did, and are now producing millions of those N95 masks. So, you know, a great honor for them. That such a big deal that the President of the United States is coming to tour it.
You know, I do really think it's interesting here, even just the optics of having the governor not wearing a mask and his assistant wearing a mask, and we don't know what's behind that or why, you know, one is and one isn't. And I'd be very surprised to see the president come off the plane wearing a mask, to be honest with you.
I don't know. I doubt he will. Everyone around him has been tested. I'm sure that McSally, Gosar, and Lesko all went through those tests, so they're probably cleared, and they figured it just wasn't necessary. But
yeah,
here she comes. Big, beautiful bird.
Oh, I know. And the thing is, you don't realize how big it is until you're standing there right next to it, and it's just so high off the ground and, you know, tall. You know, it doesn't carry a ton of people just because of the way it's... Go ahead.
No, you can, let's have Joe pull out, and you can see the difference between the United jets that are sitting next to it versus Air Force One.
Yeah.
Looks like a juggernaut as it comes pulling in. It's going to get really loud here in a minute.
Right. So I'll take it for just a second here. You know, there's some critics out there who are saying, you know, Honeywell is late to the game on this, and why do we need these, you know, 5 to 6 million masks now? Well, I think, you know, if you listen to the reports, you see the data day after day. I think a lot of people think that one of the key things that we have to do going forward, because the virus isn't going anywhere, one of the key things we have to do is be prepared. If we do see some sort of a second wave, or if we just have kind of an ongoing issue with this virus, as many expect. And so having that PPE that we heard so much about, the personal protective equipment, is going to be key not just this week, not just next month, but moving forward. So Honeywell making these millions of masks, you think would supply at least Arizona for the time going forward, and maybe, Linda, even help some other nearby states as we get ready for the ladder to come in here that the president will use to walk down.
Exactly. They already are sending off some of these masks to other states that are in trouble. And if they catch up and they get enough of these coveted N95s for all of the health professionals, then maybe other people can also get them. You know, people deemed essential, or they could sell them to people who are working in hair salons. I mean, once they reach that level where everyone who truly is on the front line has one, then other people who have to be in close contact with people to do their jobs, then they could get one too, because the masks are considered the best of the best.
Right. I mean, medical grade, right? And, you know, I've heard many experts say that most people don't need medical grade. If you're going to go in to get your hair done and you're just trying to keep your, you know, not to be crass, but like your spit and if you sneeze and those kinds of things inside of it, that you're probably okay with just a regular cotton mask with maybe a filter in there. You know what's interesting to me, Linda, is usually when the president comes, you have a fairly large group of people down there at the bottom of those stairs to greet him. Now we're looking at basically a Secret Service agent. Somebody said that may actually be, does that look like Ruben Gallego to you? Can you recognize him with the mask on, the one next to the governor? Or maybe not, or you think that's his assistant?
It does not.
Okay, good.
No,
Somebody said that maybe his
assistant. I think that's his assistant. Okay, yes, absolutely.
Oh, so it looks like it's just the governor now.
Yeah, it absolutely is. The governor, and I believe that person is some kind of security. I saw him earlier, but the press that travels with the president now getting off the back of the plane as they do and waiting. And as you can see, the beasts are lined up along with, I'd say about 7 or 8 other cars that will be a part of the motorcade, short as it is, from one side of the airport to the other to get to that Honeywell plant.
Yeah, it's. I was in that motorcade for the vice president one time, and it's surreal almost. We drove a little bit on Interstate 10. I think it was mostly Interstate 10, but they had the entire freeway shut down, and every surface street we went to was shut down. You didn't stop. You didn't slow down. I mean, you did not slow down once you got in that motorcade.
No, as they say, it's kind of a cool ride because it's all about you. You really are you might as well be the only vehicle on those freeways. They literally stop traffic so that he can get from point A to point B as quickly as possible. And for security reasons and time reasons, mostly security. You can't have him sitting at a stoplight.
No, and that
Though
just gives
that
people time.
car
Sure.
is... Exactly. It's that beast is certainly impenetrable. I was looking up some of the details on it. It's amazing what they have in that car in case of an emergency. And I'm talking about James Bond type stuff, like smoke screens and
Don't give away too many secrets, Linda. You're going to have a Secret
slicks.
Service guy tapping you on the shoulder in a second.
Oh, you know what? It was on YouTube, so I'm thinking a bunch of people already know. But it actually has an oil slick, they say. I haven't confirmed. An oil slick, if someone's chasing, there's an oil slick that will come out of the back of the car to slow them down or stop them totally. Wow. That was on the YouTube video I watched on the Beast while sitting on the media bus.
That is James Bond. You know, and then I've always heard that
I can't confirm, but...
Well, you know, there are reports that there's an oil slick. And then the big SUV that follows it, I've heard that's where a lot of heavy equipment is in terms of if they had to repel basically an attack on the Beast, that SUV is full of equipment.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, we see the two cars sitting there, the
Beast. That one right there, yeah.
And then there's this, then there's this SUV sitting behind it, and just a host of other vehicles. I said 7 or 8. I'm going to change that to say 10 to 12 because for that short ride, you know what, the doors are opening here on Air Force One, so we're going to swing back over as they push the stairs up because he'll probably be wanting to deplane pretty quickly since they're running just a few minutes behind and they have a lot of people, I'm sure, waiting over at Honeywell.
Generally,
and we see...
the president will be the first one off the plane as soon as they get everything into place, and he'll come out and usually give a wave. That's another thing that's interesting, Linda, and not that we'll pan away and show it, but another thing that we usually see, and I know you've covered many of these, is a small crowd of maybe, 50, 60, 100 people that'll be left behind kind of a little barrier, and sometimes the president will go down and shake hands, but that's not happening today.
No, the rope line, as they call it, and the barriers are up, but there's no one here. And these are people who are usually friends and family of Arizona politicians or someone who knows someone at a level where they always wanted their kids to meet the president or something, and it's a real treat for them to come gather here. And sometimes the president would walk over and sign autographs or things like that. But this is, it's just the press, security, and politicians here today. There are no civilians, so times have certainly changed.
I always wonder exactly what the president is doing right now. I mean, do they get some final briefing here? Is he looking over some things? Is he, freshening up after we watched him leave this morning at 8 a.m. from back east, so he's been on the plane for, 4 hours plus.
Probably. I mean, logistically, this is a huge 60,000 square foot factory, and I think they want to hit all the points in terms of thanking the people who had a lot to do with it coming to fruition so quickly. And so there are probably some major points that they want to hit and things that they want to be accomplished in this visit. I'm sure they would like for Senator McSally, who is I believe underwater in her race for Senate here in Arizona. They would like to give her some exposure and so that she can, hopefully score some political points for her. I mean, I think that is why they invited those three, but in particular, Senator McSally. I mean, they were the ones, I believe it was she who sent out the tweet showing the three of them on Air Force One saying, hey, we're coming to Arizona with the president, so...
Well, look, there are only 100 senators, right? And if you lose one here, that will be the second Republican you will have lost in Arizona in 2 years. So I don't think that's what they want to be dealing with there. I mean, I would imagine that besides holding on to the presidency, if you're talking about the Republican Party, there's nothing more important than them than holding on to the Senate.
Exactly. I mean, it's not even about the optics, it looking bad. It's about power. Who's on top? And we've seen so many different important issues come up, like Supreme Court justices and impeachment, where who is in control of the Senate absolutely mattered to the President of the United States. Whether he was, convicted in an impeachment trial, whether Judge Kavanaugh got through. There are so many key things coming up where Republicans definitely want to hold on to it. So many.
Oh, it's a big trip. I mean, look, and it seems like, and maybe it's just me because we've been dealing with this COVID for the last 2 months, but we haven't talked a whole lot about the election. At least we haven't here on Fox 10, AZAM especially. But I mean, it's coming up. It's close. And without COVID, I bet we'd be talking a lot about this election and exactly where the president is polling-wise in Arizona. I mean, I looked up on Real Clear Politics today, which is basically they take all the polls and put them together. The last 4 polls that were done in Arizona, 4 different polling companies, had the president trailing Joe Biden in Arizona.
Right, and I'm sure those are the numbers that had them say, you know what, Mr. President, let's find a feel-good story and get you out to Arizona without, exposing a lot of people. And they found this Honeywell story, and it certainly fit the bill. But I think we'll see him taking more trips like that are targeted politically to help his campaign. Not to mention, it's just, it's fantastic what Honeywell and the city of Phoenix and everyone did in getting this done.
Absolutely. I was trying to pull up what he called it just a moment ago. He said what they're doing, he said, this is back March 30th, the president in a Rose Garden event said of Honeywell, they were fulfilling their patriotic duty by producing and donating medical equipment to meet our most urgent needs. What they're doing is incredible. So that was back March 30th. So that's coming up on what, a month and a week, or maybe even a little bit more.
Right.
And so kind of foreshadowing what he's doing.
It's been on their radar. Here we go, Troy. Signature red tie. President making his way down the stairs, giving a little fist pump there.
First time leaving Washington, D.C. in a month and a half, and the place he's going to step here is Arizona soil.
Is Phoenix, Arizona. That's right. He's greeting Governor Ducey. And here come the rest of our congressional contingent.
Senator
McSally leading the way. And you see Congresswoman Lesko and Congressman Gosar behind them. And I guess they will all get into that same beastmobile and then take the short trip over. Well, I don't know if there was a handshake or...
There was one with Ducey.
Was there? Congresswoman Lesko kind of held out her arms like, here's a virtual hug to, I think, the governor as they sit and chat informally here before heading over to that Honeywell plant. And we, of course, will, yeah.
The governor's going to get in the beast. Look at the size of that car.
Watch him open this big, heavy door.
Compared to the governor. That is...
He should have called shotgun while they were still standing out there. That's huge. Yeah, it's big. They actually face each other knee to knee.
There you go.
The press is now running to the buses that they will follow over in. And I've covered, quite a few presidential trips. This has got to be the shortest motorcade from point A to point B, and certainly the shortest trip. He may be in there an hour, hour and a half. Press is not invited back for Wheels Up on Air Force One as it heads back to D.C. They're told, so we won't be able to cover the departure, but the arrival is certainly something to behold always.
I enjoyed it, Linda.
And we do have a camera crew going
inside
through Honeywell with the president, so we will have those pictures later on for you on Fox 10 News.
Right. Full coverage of the president's visit as they head over, probably the 30 to 45 second drive to Honeywell. This is just on the north side of the tarmac. Again, full coverage of the president's visit coming up on later editions of Fox 10 News beginning at 4 o'clock. We will be right back.
Am I clear? They're in a commercial.
All right, everybody, good afternoon. Thank you so much for watching News Now, whether you're watching on coronavirusnow.com or you are watching on YouTube. My name is Pilar Arias. I've been here on the set with you for the last 24 minutes or so. There you see the beast taking off. We saw Debbie Lesko. We saw Martha McSally along with the president get inside. Our very own Linda Williams was reporting live there at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport. So big thanks for that. We're going to continue to follow the president's travels right here on News Now. And as you can see, this is a live look at the Honeywell facility here in the Valley. No presidential seal on that podium just yet, but as soon as it gets placed there, you know that the president is very close to speaking. So again, we will cover it all for you right here on News Now. I'm going to say hello here really quickly in just a second.